Hi everyone.
So today I was going to continue reading the book I've been reading here on my channel, and the book is called The Awakened Mind, Biofeedback, and the Development of Higher States of Awareness. Before I do that, I want to let you know I am simultaneously, oh, thank you Trump 2020, I am simultaneously streaming on Bigo and I'm also recording this for YouTube later on. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I really would appreciate it if you did. My name is at Kumquat Kelly. I should have it in the title and also on my profile page. I would really appreciate that. Okay, so the book I'm going to be reading today, this is my third reading of it, and basically what it is about. It is talking about how our mind has a lot more ability to control our own physiology and even, send out energetic forces besides that than what most people realize. And so this was a book, I believe it was written in the 70s, and it talks a little bit on that. So I'm going to just jump in here. If you guys have any comments or questions as we go along, put them in there, and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I'll just jump in here. Okay. Before electroencephalography, gosh, okay, what is that word? Electroencephalography, okay, some machine, with all its far-reaching implications is discussed. We will briefly review the discovery of the electrical brain rhythms and the early work on brain rhythm biofeedback. The discovery of the electrical activity of the brain is usually attributed to Richard Caton, who in 1875 investigated the voltages produced by the brains of monkeys and rabbits by using electrodes placed in direct contact with the exposed brain. In 1924, a similar technique was used with human beings, but it was not until later in the same year that the technique became potentially useful, when a young German scientist, Hans Berger, found that electrical signals could be picked up from the scalp without having to remove part of the skull. Berger withheld publication of his electroencephalograms for 5 years, but was nevertheless bitterly disappointed that his truly epoch-making work was either ridiculed or ignored for several more years. Oh, thank you, Trump 2020. I appreciate that. In most individuals, one hemisphere of the brain usually shows more electrical activity than the other. But this difference tends to diminish and even to disappear when training in meditation is commenced. There is wide agreement that the alpha rhythm represents some kind of synchronous firing of neurons in the cerebral cortex. Now, I mentioned this in the last stream I did, that when you look at the brain, it's almost like the balancing of like the yin and yang in like some Eastern teachings. The yin brain almost refers to like the right hemisphere, and the yang brain the left hemisphere. People oftentimes also consider this the masculine brain and the feminine brain. And many of us, especially in the West, tend to be left brain dominant. And this is like the logistical side. It's the it's very important stuff to have. But the right brain also, covers things like morality, creativity, things like that. And in our society, like, even look at like what are the first subjects that get cut when schools like lose their funding? It's the arts. It's very clear how certain subjects are valued in today's society. And really, the best full functioning brain we can have is when we have a balance of these two hemispheres, because it creates a higher brain function than if we were just based in one side, and it can change. We can improve on this, so I want to make that point. Okay. The foundations for the biofeedback principle were laid in the late 1950s by Joe Kamiya, a psychophysiologist now at Langley. Porter Neuropsychiatric Institute of the California Medical Center. The basic assumption in his alpha control studies was that if by biofeedback a bodily event can be associated with a recognizable mental state, then it will be possible to control the bodily event. Oh, hi guys, just joining now. I'm reading The Awakened Mind, Biofeedback, and the Development of Higher States of Awareness. Experiments were run in Kamiya's Chicago laboratory in which EEG electrodes were attached to the subject's scalp to register the alpha brainwave frequency. When a bell rang, the subject was to guess A, if he felt alpha was present at that moment, or B, if he felt it was not. He was then told at once he was correct. This strangely interior form of test had surprising results. After an hour or so of haphazard guessing, The subject would begin to guess correctly up to 60% of the time. After 3 hours, some subjects became up to 80% correct, and a few learned to guess 100% correctly. People could learn to read their own brains. But how? When they were questioned, the subjects found that they could not articulately explain what made them know whether they were in or out of alpha. They just knew. With the next experimental task, however, further enlightenment came. The subjects were now asked to try to produce the state called A on command. When a bell rang twice, when it rang once, they were to switch over to the state called B. The amazing discovery was that the subjects had somehow learned by the preceding training how to put themselves onto either level. This led to the next logical question. Could people be taught to control their brainwaves without this training by themselves? When Dr. Kamiya became associated with the Langley Porter Institute, he set up an electronic device that turned on a signal tone whenever alpha waves or alpha were present and turned off again the instant they weren't. Subjects were asked to try to maintain alpha as long as possible. They were also asked both to suppress alpha and to generate it deliberately. Now guys, if you're not familiar with alpha is, that's like a vibrational frequency that the brain can be on. It's the state of heightened awareness. Okay, all the subjects were able to do so, and after a while, their descriptions of what the states felt like began to tally. A generation was achieved by a kind of passive blankness, a calming down of the mind, a release of judgments or questions, a mental letting go. It was in some way very pleasant and preferable to the B state of suppression. Suppressing the A state, on the other hand, was easily achieved by visual imagery. Some subjects showed EEG patterns similar to those found in 20-year practitioners of Zazen, Zen meditation. In the early 1970s, studies were undertaken by doctors Robert Keith Wallace and Herbert Benson of the Harvard Medical School to further explore the physical correlates of transcendental meditation. These studies corroborated the presence of alpha brainwaves and borderlines of theta brainwaves during the extreme stillness of mind-body and restful alertness of meditation. But this aspect will be gone into fully later in relation to training for higher states of consciousness. This brings us now to the last biofeedback instrument in our list, and the most recent, the EEG machine, which we call the mind mirror because it does, in fact, reflect states of mind-body correlation. The mind mirror is a form of electroencephalograph never produced before, and the story of its evolution in our research will be told later in more detail. Physically, the machine consists of 24 rows of light-emitting diodes, or LEDs, arranged in 2 banks of 12 rows each. Each row comprises 32 LEDs, 16 on the left bank, 16 on the right, so that signals from both left and right hemispheres of the brain, which are conducted via the electrodes, and leads in the usual way, can be shown up on the instrument at the same time and recorded and compared accordingly. For each hemisphere, there are 12 separate frequency channels. Oh, hi, homie. Guys, if you're just joining the stream right now, I'm reading The Awakened Mind, Biofeedback, and the Development of Higher States of Awareness. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments. With 16 LEDs in each of the 2 times 12 lines, there is a total of 384 sub-miniature lights, plus those in a 13th row with lights of a different color, which show up the presence of tension, making a total of 416 lights. There is a separate amplifier for the signals in each frequency channel, which an integrated circuit converts to an illuminated display to make up the total pattern formation. In use, the mind mirror has a sufficiently rapid response time to enable the ephemeral brain-mind states to be seen, and patterns remain stable as long as the state is stable. They scatter the instant the state alters or breaks up. The subject can literally see not only the pattern of his state, but how long he holds it and just what it becomes as it retreats. Brainwave rhythms. Despite all the differences of opinion which have been generated in the last 10 years since the advent of relatively inexpensive biofeedback equipment, there has nevertheless been some measure of agreement about what the basic brain rhythms may mean. Beta rhythm, 13 to 30 hertz. The normal waking rhythm of the brain associated with active thinking or active attention, focusing on the outside world or solving concrete problems. The strength of the signal is increased by anxiety and reduced by muscular activity. I feel like I need to sneeze. Hold on. Excuse me. Thank you. All right. Alpha rhythm, 8 to 13 hertz for adults or 4 to 7 hertz for children. Alpha is the most prominent rhythm in the whole realm of brain activity, but also the one with least apparent meaning unless the associated rhythms are also known. It denotes an empty mind rather than a relaxed one, a mindless state rather than a passive one. Most subjects produce some alpha with the eyes closed, and this is why it has been claimed that it is nothing but a kind of scanning or waiting pattern produced by the visual centers of the brain. It is usually reduced or eliminated by opening the eyes, hearing unfamiliar sounds, anxiety, or mental concentration. Albert Einstein could solve complex mathematical problems while remaining in the alpha state, but our recent work suggests that this was not an alpha alone state. One person in 10 or 20 produces no alpha at all, while about 1 in 10 produces alpha with the eyes open. Alpha per se is not associated with inwardly directed attention, relaxed awareness, or feelings of well-being. These states seem to require the simultaneous presence of beta and theta for there to be any addition to the no-mind state. Right, theta rhythm, 4 to 7 hertz. The waking hypnagogic state with dreamlike imagery. Theta appears as consciousness slips towards drowsiness. Theta has been associated with access to unconscious material, creative inspiration, and deep meditation, but these states will be found to be accompanied by other frequencies in the alpha and beta bands, or with alpha alone in meditation. Now, I do want to make one mention about this theta frequency because it's kind of cool. So I mentioned in the last stream how within the first 6 years of our life, and also while we're in the womb, these are our foundational years. And during these years, the most intense programming happens in our mind, in our subconscious mind. And during this time, the messages that we get, we're just absorbing things. We're just absorbing everything around us. And so we're playing on, the energetic frequencies of the people around us. Are they super stressed? Because basically our body is trying to figure out, how do I function in this world? And it's picking up things. Even before we are born, it's picking up signals in the womb, which is pretty intense. There's been studies done on orphans who have pretty traumatic times during their first 6 years of experience, and they are more prone to autism, they're more prone to ill health, they don't grow as well. So during these years, the nurture aspect of these children are so vital to create healthy beings. Also, if during this time, if we have experienced trauma, or even it's not even trauma, but it's I keep getting this thing I'll never amount to anything. I keep hearing these words, or maybe one of your parents is really mean to you, or or gets mad at you and tells you, oh my God, you're so annoying. This stays with you. This stays with you for a long time if it's happening during the foundational years. And it can still stay with us throughout our adulthood. And the reason why it's so keen in those years is because our theta happens more than it does in adulthood, that theta frequency. And however, when we are in adulthood, we do go through the theta frequency twice a day. It's right as we're waking up and right when we're going to sleep. So we go through it twice a day. And so if you read into Dr. Bruce Lipton's work, he makes some really interesting statements that if we want to recode what is in our subconscious, which is really important when it comes to how we think about ourselves, and even if you're looking at the law of attraction, that subconscious is very important, in addition to also creating new habits If you've ever been like, my conscious mind really wants to create this habit, but I'm really getting frustrated. Like, I can't seem to make myself eat healthy for long periods of time. I can't seem to get into this like exercise regimen. Well, the best thing you can do then is probably what's happening, first of all, is that you're going up against something that's in your subconscious. That, we don't exercise, or I'm always going to be overweight, or there's some kind of message that's inside your subconscious that is making this really difficult. Now, repetition can be used to reprogram the subconscious mind, but it seems to be more of a direct way if you can reprogram it through theta. So, what Dr. Robert M. Williams recommends, and also Bruce Lipton, is to have like almost like a recording as you're going to sleep, or as you're waking up. I don't know how you do that waking up unless you're doing it for the whole night. But basically having a tape that is guiding you to make those changes. So if it's saying, oh, I exercise all the time, I'm regular at exercising, things like that. If you are having a tape that says that during your theta period, it will reprogram your subconscious to believe it. So a little thing I wanted to mention there. Okay, back to the reading. Delta rhythm, 1/2 to 4 hertz, primarily associated with deep sleep. There have also been reports that delta waves appear at the onset of paranormal phenomena, and we find that they are also associated with the higher levels of consciousness. The instrument uses electrodes attached to the head to pick up the voltages generated by the brain. And one of the advantages of the muscle monitoring 13th row is that it eliminates the problem familiar to researchers of the intrusion of unwanted parasitic voltages, such as those from facial, jaw, or even scalp muscles. The great sensitivity and ease of operation of the mind mirror, its wide frequency range, 1.5 to 40 hertz, and above all its ability to show rhythms in both cerebral hemispheres at the same time, are already opening up the way to new discoveries and deeper understanding of the brain and its powerful and complex involvement with the body and health. The latest addition to the mind mirror is the invaluable data recorder. For the remarkable visual patterns produced by the mind mirror to be acceptable to orthodox scientists and of practical use to clinicians, there needed to be some form of automatic permanent record which could subsequently be examined and re-examined as necessary. This recording can now be made by means of a special cassette recorder. Oh dang, this is an old book. I was guessing that it was like in the 70s, maybe it's in the 90s, I don't know. Guys, if you are watching the stream right now, if you guys would go over to my YouTube channel at Kumquat Kelly and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I have readings like this all the time and vlogs and story time, so if that's something you might be interested in, I'd really appreciate it if you hopped over there and subscribed. My name, Kumquat Kelly, it should be in the title of this video, or it's also on my profile on Bigo, so that would be great if you can. All right, back to the book. Because data from conventional paper recorders are too bulky, and in the case of EEG recorders, might need computer facilities to convert them to a useful form, Jeffrey Blundell decided to use standard magnetic tape cassettes, recording the complex electrical signals in digital form. Considerable other technical difficulties had to be overcome in connection with this choice, but the final result was that an hour or more of mind mirror patterns for 2 persons could be recorded together with ESR or myograph signals and elapsed time. It's a simple matter to correlate all this information with the recorded vocal commentary. Hi, Gage. Sorry, guys, my husband just walked in. How are you? Did you have a good day? No? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh. Yeah, guys, if you don't know, Gage is getting very frustrated with his work right now. I don't all of your secrets, just some of them.
Why aren't you wearing pants?
I am wearing shorts, thank you. Gage likes to throw in commentary to cause more drama into these streams. So, yes, guys, I am wearing pants. Not that this affects you in any way, but yes. Okay, I'm going to finish up this chapter real quick. So the two persons whose parameters are recorded could, for example, be an experimenter and his subject, or a healer and a patient. Before coming to wider implications of all the foregoing, in the next chapter, we will discuss the class and laboratory research leading up to the clear understanding of the need for such an instrument as the mind mirror, as well as some of the self-awareness training methods we employ to reach the higher states of consciousness. Okay, guys, I am going to end the stream right here. Again, just another, another plug for my YouTube channel. If you guys want to hop over there to Kumquat Kelly and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, in a few days, I will be doing another stream, and I'll continue reading. If you'd like to catch up on some of this book that you missed, you can go to my YouTube channel. I have it also there. And I also have a reading from the last book I read called Psych K, which talks about how we can reprogram the subconscious, and it gives you, ways to do that. So feel free to check that out. All right, thanks, guys.